Hello everyone, and to another episode of Grappling with Canada. As usual, I'm your host, the Taxman, and I'm very excited to be bringing to you the subject matter for this month as we cover the career of Gail Kim. Now, what's interesting I find about Gail Kim is as much as she is known for her work in Impact Wrestling, for women's wrestling in general, and for her professionalism both inside and outside the ring, there's really not a whole lot of documentation about her career. And what there is let's just say skewed slightly, and we're going to kind of get into that a little bit in this episode. We're also going to go deep into the career that she had in Impact Wrestling, as well with guests that I have on the program. We're going to talk about some high spots from her career. I also have some fantastic classic audio from Gail Kim from a couple of promos that she did in Impact Wrestling, leading up to a couple of major feuds that we're going to talk about later in this program, as well as audio from somebody you may not expect to be talking about glowingly about Gail Kim, but we're going to get into all of that and more on the other side of this.
Hey everybody, Trent from Total Nonstop Impact. Impact Talk for Impact fans, the number one Impact Wrestling podcast and discussion show on the planet. Tuesday night post shows after Impact and Access TV. Thursday night TNA Asylum throwbacks. Sunday night Impact Plus Weekly Explosion Talk and Open Forum. All the pay-per-views in between and the breaking news. Whatever's happening in Impact Wrestling, we're covering it. Join us at Total Nonstop Impact at twitch.tv/Total Nonstop Impact, youtube.com/Total Nonstop Impact, and all major podcast platforms.
Now, as we start to dig into today's subject matter, like I had said at the top of the program, it's interesting how much is not written about Gail Kim. And it's funny that I should talk about that, and I realize the irony of what I'm about to say because I'm a guy, but the majority of the articles that are written about Gail Kim are written by males, and many of them have a very, we'll just say, male-skewed perspective is the nicest way I can put it. A lot of the articles, too, that you will read online regarding Gail Kim are written in a time that women's wrestling was not really looked at as impressively as it is today. It was very much looked at the popcorn match, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later with both of the guests that I have on this program. And it's really unfortunate because there's a lot of female wrestling talent from the early 2000s, mid-2000s, into the 2010s that are, kind of whitewashed and forgotten about in history because of a lot of the bad that came out of that period of time. I'm not going to get into all of the negative portions of it. I don't think that is where this podcast needs to go today, but suffice it to say that there's a lot of overlooked talent, and when you're talking about overlooked talent and talent that maybe doesn't get their due recognition, to me, top of the list is Gail Kim. Now, maybe that's because most of her career was spent with Impact Wrestling, and yes, say what you want about Impact Wrestling and their reach and their numbers and all things like that, but the reality of the matter is they've been essentially the number two company in North America for the better part of 15 years. Now, whether you're looking at their time on Spike TV, whether you're looking at their time on FX1 or, where they are now, obviously there's been a lot of ups and downs, and I'm not really here to debate whether it's good or not where they are in terms of product placement. However, nobody can deny what they've done for the evolution of women's wrestling far beyond and before what WWE has done before their quote-unquote women's evolution and the pay-per-view and such named after that. But I digress. Like I said, a lot of female wrestling talent from that era was quite overlooked, and like I said, Gail Kim is the top of the list, so that's kind of why I wanted to shine the spotlight on her today. Not only because she is a fantastic Canadian, she is a fantastic women's wrestler, who also, like I said, just happened to be from Canada, but really set the bar for what women's wrestling can be and how women's wrestling can be perceived by the outside public, whether male or female. Like I said, I have some fantastic guests on the program. Ashley Rose Nova, who you'll remember from episode 1, the Stu Hart episode. She joins the program again, back by popular demand, I might say. And we also have Alicia. You will notice her or know her from her time on Total Nonstop Impact, and you just heard their infomercial, if you will, right before the program here, but she also joins the program. So like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of information that probably you guys have not heard, or if you've heard it, you haven't heard it in a long time. So we're going to get into all of this and a lot more, but before we get into all that, let's kick this off with a promo from Gail Kim, talking about her unfortunate time in the WWE when she was reflecting on the second end of her tenure with them. So we're going to get into that audio, and then we're going to get into the crux of the program.
I felt like I was held back. I felt like when we had matches, it would be 6 girl tags, 8 girl tags, just random matches that meant nothing. I remember looking back at the crowd sometimes and they're not invested at all. I think that they just thought, okay, women's match, bathroom break, or whatever it was. And you know, I tried to do my best when I had the singles matches, but they were far and few between. And so, you know, I think when you're in that kind of situation and you really have no choice, you just kind of try to make the best of it. And that's what I did. And then eventually I just became so unhappy and I just couldn't stay. Yeah. If you saw me in WWE, I was a completely different person. I walked on eggshells, which no one should ever feel that way, and maybe that's partially my fault, but I never felt at all like I needed to be someone else in Impact. I always felt like I could be me. That's why I'm probably a little bit more vocal, because they make me feel comfortable. They're like, okay, you can be Gail, and we like Gail. And I never felt like Gail was good enough in WWE because I just couldn't be myself. I was always thinking, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be? And honestly, I just needed to be myself. But, you know, the way that I look at things with that company now, when fans ask me, I just say, you know what? My personality did not fit there. And I truly believe that, because knowing my personality now and what it's developed to, I think I would probably get into a fight. If I was back in that company, I'd end up punching someone in the office because I'm just so feisty now. And maybe it's my age. I'm 40 now, and so you become more confident and you just put up with less. And so I think if I was back there, I don't think they would like me, because I don't know if they like strong, outspoken women. I don't know. I doubt it. You know, I don't feel that they do.
Just a few housekeeping notes before we dive into the program today. You can check us out, tinyurl.com/grappling with Canada. There you're going to see links to Amazon pages, most notably in regards to books for authors who have been on the program previously. Now, if you use these links to purchase those authors' books, this program gets a tiny bit of kickback. The thing to note about all of this, and I know I say it every time, but I'm going to say it again, is this does not add anything to your purchasing price. It just provides a small kickback from Amazon to this show for providing the service. So if you use those links at tinyurl.com/grappling with Canada, that would be much appreciated. Also of note, and especially in regards to Impact Wrestling fans, you will see at tinyurl.com/grappling with Canada a link to a 30-day free Amazon Prime subscription. Now again, This doesn't add anything to your purchasing price, but it does help out the program. And of note, these Amazon Prime subscriptions can also be used towards Twitch. So if you are an Impact Wrestling fan and you watch Impact Wrestling on Twitch and you want to subscribe to their channel, use my link, get your free 30-day Amazon Prime trial, then go on Tuesdays on Twitch to watch Impact Wrestling and use that subscription to get all those tendies, if you will. Of note, also, you can find me on Twitter at 6_podcast, and you can find this page on YouTube under youtube.com/c/six-sided podcast. Now, as usual, that's because that was under the old Six-Sided Podcast name, and I'm not changing it because that would open a whole can of worms, and we're not going to get into that right now. Of note, also, I want to mention that you can find this podcast, if you're listening to it, on youtube.com/c/six-sided podcast. You can also find it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, basically wherever you buy, sell, trade, steal, barter, trade, whatever your favorite podcast. Type in Grappling With Canada and you will find us. And one last thing to note, we are marching our way to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So when we hit that wonderful, magical 1,000 subscriber mark, one lucky subscriber is getting a tremendous prize package. Now, I can reveal one part of that package tonight. Included in that package will be a copy of Pain and Passion, the Stampede Wrestling, which I would call the Bible of Stampede Wrestling, a book that was written by Heath McCoy. That is going to be a part of that tremendous prize package that one lucky subscriber is going to get once we hit that wonderful 1,000 subscriber mark. Now that we've done all the housekeeping, we can move ahead with the program. Gail Kim began her career wrestling on the Canadian-American independent circuit before joining the WWE in 2002. She became the first WWE diva in history to win a championship in her debut match. After being released by the WWE in 2004, Kim joined TNA in 2005. There, she joined the American tag team America's Most Wanted as their valet, which we discussed later in this episode. After the dissolution of that group, Kim performed as a singles wrestler, eventually becoming the inaugural TNA Knockouts champion in 2007. During her time in TNA, she had an acclaimed feud with Awesome Kong, which we're going to get into great depth and detail later, which is generally considered one of the greatest women's wrestling feuds of the 2000s, and I would say in history, to be perfectly honest. She later left TNA in August 2008 to return to the WWE 3 months later, where she remained until 2011. Now, the 2011 end and the controversy around all of that, we're going to dive into deeply as well in this program today. The following October, she returned to TNA, and in 2002, PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, named Kim the #1 female wrestler in the world, and in 2016, she was announced as the first female inductee into the TNA Wrestling Hall of Fame. Now, before we get into my first interview with the aforementioned Ashley Rose Nova, I'm going to play an audio clip from somebody who you may not consider as a, how shall we put it, a big women's wrestling supporter, and this is from Jim Cornette. Now, I'm not here to debate what anybody thinks about his comments, which are, I find, often taken out of context. What this audio is for is to showcase what he thinks about Gail Kim and the incredible run that she had with Awesome Kong. Now, one of the questions that was posed to him on his drive-through program was what he thought about Gail Kim and what he thought about the presentation of her and Awesome Kong in TNA Wrestling. So I'm going to play this audio, and then I hope that this opens some people's eyes a little bit with Jim Cornette. Now, again, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not here to debate the things that he says on his program, not all of which I agree with personally. However, like I said, many of them are taken out of context. So in the context of this episode, I hope that you will give it a second thought and really listen to what he has to say about Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and their feud that they had. So I'm going to play this audio, and then we're going to get to my interview with Ashley Rose Nova on the other side of it.
Well, first of all, I loved it. Short version. Now I'll elaborate. And I don't want to compare it to anything say such is greater because I haven't seen a lot of I still got to see the a couple of the girls' matches here lately that everybody's been talking about with Charlotte and Rousey and etc. But I don't want to just poop all over those since I haven't seen them. However, I think Awesome Kong and Gail Kim was my favorite female wrestling program rivalry series of matches, however you want to group it together, since I've been watching wrestling. It was perfect. It was a monster heel against a young, fresh-faced, exciting underdog baby face. That I've said many times, Dutch Mantell originated or was originally given the Knockouts division to be their agent because I don't think anybody else probably wanted to fuck with it. Because Shitstain was trying to write, Shakespeare all over again. He didn't have time for it. And so they left him alone, which is why the Knockouts started outshining and getting over, at least according to the television ratings and just the interest. The Knockouts division started getting more interest, especially underneath Gail and Kong, because it made sense, and they left Dutch alone, and he could tell the girls, because he's a very good teacher, how to put shit together psychologically to go along with the things they could do in the ring, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, once the numbers started reflecting that the people were more into the girls than the guys, Idiot fucking started putting his fingers in and messing in with that too and gimmicking it up. But Gail and Kong were perfect, and the match, and Gail would willingly take a hell of an ass whipping. Because I don't mean, Kong was not being unprofessional or dangerous in a dangerous way or whatever, but it was, Gail knew to let Kong be Kong, and Kong was trying, it was like a female Vader. She was trying as best she could not to hurt you, but shit was going to happen because there was a lot of fucking force and passion behind all that shit. And Gail could work her ass off and sell so well. And I've always thought, to be honest, at that time, once again, I don't want to knock anybody currently because I haven't seen the whole roster standing side by side. But Gail was the most attractive female talent in the business at that point also, because she didn't look like everybody else. She wasn't overly surgically enhanced. She wasn't blonde. She wasn't, she didn't work like a former lingerie model or whatever. She was unique and very cool. And, so anyway, and you could get tons of sympathy on her, and Kong played with that fucking facial expression and the just the way she could move around and do that shit is like working with a female Vader, and Gail Kim was the Shawn Michaels, although they worked together much better in the fucking ring than those two did though. But I loved it.
All right, everyone, I'm very happy to be joined by fan favorite of the show and second time returnee Ashley Rose Nova. Ashley, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm great. It's they're as good as they can be today.
We're talking off air a little bit here. You're in the beleaguered state of Texas right now, but luckily you haven't been affected by the power outages down there.
Oh no, not at all. Luckily, and I've had heat, and I'm pretty set.
Just you get the water advisory, right? You got to boil your water there.
Yeah, but even then, I don't mess with tap water anyways to begin with. So
yeah, you're in a good spot there then for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's a shame and it's horrible what's going on currently, but like I said, I've lived other places in Texas that were a lot colder than it got here, so it's all good.
You're well acclimated at least.
Yeah, I'm adaptable to it would be the term, but it is sad what's going on. But hopefully, by the time everyone hears this, usually everything should, from my understanding, be manageable again.
Yeah, and showed it to everybody down there trying to get everything up and running. Like, that's quite the task. I know, you've been through a little bit of climate yourself, and I'm in Winnipeg, and, terrible weather is kind of our calling card. So for us, we're kind of used to it, but everybody down there, hats off to everybody who's trying to get that thing right and get everything put back in order. That's quite the task.
Oh yeah. All I've been doing is I've been working, honestly, the whole time. We've had a pretty busy couple of days at Culture Plus Entertainment. TWM, I'm currently, I don't have anything due, actually, for them until, like, at the end of the weekend, so, but entertainment-wise, we've been pretty busy. As far as, like, the comics department and the anime department and the gaming department are extremely busy today because of all the news that's been coming out today.
Well, I can only imagine. And, with between lockdowns and everything else that's going on, it's a good time to stay at home and kind of indulge yourself in those kind of niceties, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I've been working, but I haven't been really affected by anything weather-wise. That's completely by luck, honestly. Because there are some places, like near where I am currently residing, that did lose power. But luckily, that changed and, the power got turned back on. So we're very adaptable in my area, so that's a good thing.
Adaptability seems to be kind of your forte, right? Between that and all the different wrestling articles and everything, like that's kind of your it's right in your wheelhouse, if you will.
Yeah, I also write other things besides wrestling articles too, and I think sometimes people forget that, but that's cool. Wrestling's what I'm known for, so I'm okay with that.
Which is why I wanted to get you back in the program. So if anybody is not familiar with Ashley, she was a special guest on episode 1, the Stu Hart episode. Did a tremendous job, and if this is your first introduction to this program, I highly suggest that you go back and listen to our repertoire on episode 1. Great stuff, at least. So I had to get you back on here because we are going to be talking about the career path of Gail Kim, and you are quite familiar with her with your knowledge and expertise as it regards to Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. She's she's not just a legendary knockout. I would say she's probably the knockout. When you think of that championship, you think of Gail Kim. I would definitely say that over her WWE run.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit too, because it's funny. A lot of people kind of forget about the WWE, and she had, believe it or not, 2 runs, and a lot of people forget about those just because of, the first one was not memorable at all, really, and the second one is more memorable for how it ended, and we're gonna get into that as well. But we're gonna kick this off. We'll just start with how she started off in the WWE. So she starts off in the WWE. She was essentially a valet. Now this was she came out of OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, under the tutelage of Jim Cornette and others, and was doing dark matches and house shows before she got called up to the main roster. This would have been in 2002. So it's funny, back then they used to do, they being the WWE, used to do such a good job of bringing in talent with vignettes. And a lot of people, if they remember her WWE runs, would remember her vignettes that were showing like this kind of Matrix style of effects that were airing on Raw. And this went on for several weeks until she finally debuted. But in classic in WWE fare, she debuts and then she's put into like a valet style debut right away. To me, it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to put the time and effort into vignettes and hyping somebody up, and you got this great talent, and you debut them, and they're a valet. Very strange, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Gail, I would always say, during that time, as far as WWE was, it was the promotion at the time. Now we have so many different other promotions. For her to make it there, I thought it was great. And, she has always been ahead of her time as far as it comes to a women performer to be in large promotions. sadly, like you said, they didn't, all this hype, these package promos that were created, not necessarily with her, but, just to, almost like a teaser trailer would be produced out for new talent.
Yes.
It's kind of to debut her, everyone to be excited, all the fans to really look into something like, oh, this is something we can get behind, this is someone we can get behind, and to fall flat. It's, it is a shame.
It's, and I spoke about this at the top of the program, and, it is kind of, it's awkward a little bit for me being a male host talking about this specific part of it on the program, and I'm going to be as tactful as I can be, but everybody has to understand that time of the WWE, this is way before their quote-unquote women's evolution and things of that nature. That period of time in the WWE, you were pushed if you had blonde hair and certain assets, we're going to say, to put it nicely. And if you didn't fit into that category, talent or otherwise, you were kind of set by the wayside. And I kind of feel like that was her lot of the draw. Like she was a 4-week champion during that time. They didn't really do anything with her. She won a couple of battle royals. They didn't really do anything with her. She had some high impact feuds with Lita and Trish Stratus, but again, they never really went anywhere. She just kind of seemed to, she was there and she was talented, but she was almost just a number, if you will.
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as, saying maybe she was just a number or a jobber, as the term people would use it. I think primarily they maybe used her mainly to put others over that they felt that they could market and push quicker, which is probably, when you look back at that time, that's probably exactly what happened. They just went with whatever was marketable, which is a shame, during that time period, because it was a difficult time for women's wrestling. Yes, women's wrestling was being debuted on a major promotion. Was it the correct way or an accurate way or the right way? I don't know. I'm not one to exactly judge because, I was younger at that time, and that is what we knew. We wouldn't know any type of evolution in major promotions when it comes to pro wrestling, in my mind, until TNA would actually raise the bar a little bit higher and actually have, more than just a handful of people that they were pushing due to a certain stereotypical look or some type of stereotype or some type of persona.
I mean, it's we're looking at it in 2021 eyes, right?
Yeah, it's a very touchy subject, that time period, I think, to even discuss, and you have to, I feel when people look back at it, there are some good aspects of it, but also there are some things that I feel that maybe could have been done better. However, it was a different time period, and that's not me making an excuse for the promotion. But that seems to be, for some reason, what was going on at that time. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I think a lot of things could have been done way better. And that's just me being very delicate with the subject.
Yeah, it's you don't want to, part of me wants to just come guns blazing on it, but it's like, how tactful do you want to be navigating a situation like that? So, Jim Ross has talked about it on his podcast multiple times, a story about, he's talking to Vince, and Vince didn't understand what Gail Kim could bring to the roster because she wasn't blonde and she wasn't 6'2" and she wasn't enhanced. I'm trying to phrase this politically, and I apologize if this is coming off as derogatory or whatever. That's not my intention, and I don't mean to make light of it, but we have to understand that we're looking at something in 2021 light, and this is something that happened, 2002, 19 years ago, and then we're looking at events, 15 years ago after the fact. But yeah, he didn't understand what Gail Kim brought to what she brought to the table, and Jim Ross had mentioned, and again, this is a terrible thing to take out of context, but again, we're in 2002 eyes here, and Jim Ross had mentioned something along the lines of, "Oh, well, Vince, you know that there's Asian pornography," and Vince scoffed at it because he couldn't understand or didn't want to understand or whatever, that there's women's body types and outside of the sable cookie cutter, whatever you want to say, physique, right? And I think that really is something that you see nowadays, but like you said, you didn't see it in WWE back then, and I'm not saying that that's the right thing to go. Obviously, we know that that's wrong in today's day and age, but that's something that you really saw moving forward in TNA and Impact Wrestling, like where she went to, and we're going to get there in just a second. So, Gail Kim was released by WWE in 2004. It was simply cost-cutting. That's the reason that they gave her, but obviously her track record, the way that they used her, it was kind of a no-brainer that, you bring somebody in with this big push, you subject them to a lesser role, and it's out the door after that. And unfortunately that she just kind of, got cut, unfortunately, way too soon. But she does wind up in TNA Wrestling, which is where we're really going to pick the story up, because this is when it really gets interesting. So, following her release from the 90-day no compete clause, listen to me talk, she made her debut for Impact Wrestling in 2005. So, I'm not sure, were you watching Impact at this point in time or no?
I was watching it on and off, honestly, because, there were some aspects of Impact, or TNA at the time, or TNA Impact, whatever.
Yes, we should say at that time it was TNA Impact or TNA Wrestling. Yes.
There were certain aspects that I did watch a lot of. Usually it was, a lot of the Knockouts division and the tag team division at the time, because they offered something different, a little bit different than what you were seeing in WWE. So I watched certain aspects of it. It wasn't until later on that I became more invested in the actual promotion.
So she came in. She essentially kicked off. They had a women's division, the Knockouts division, as it would come to be known. But she's one of the pillars that really built that division up. Her and Jacqueline had an incredible set of matches that really kind of defined what we're bringing to the table here. It wasn't the WWE, pretty girls with long legs in 5-minute bra and panties matches. And I'm sorry for being crass, but that's what it was back then in the WWE. Now you're seeing women who can work, women who are getting in the ring, who have talent, and they're being able to showcase the talent. And her and Jacqueline really kicked this thing off.
Yeah, that would be her primary introduction, I think, into the Knockouts division. From my understanding, I think they would compete in a gauntlet after that for the championship. It wasn't until later on.
Yes, that's correct.
For a women's title. At the time, I would definitely say TNA, regardless of whether people want to accept it or not, or believe it or not, TNA was probably the first televised promotion, I think, that displayed a lot of different types of women's wrestlers from different backgrounds that could, like you say, the terminology, work and went through a lot of the training or chose to do that type of work, whether it be a valet interviewer or, just to be in-ring talent. So, yeah, that's my opinion. whether people want to believe that or not, that's what I think, honestly, as far as a televised program.
Well, even I'm looking at the roster of women that they had in that like 2006 to 2008 era. Like, so you have Gail, you have Jacqueline, there's ODB, Roxy Laveau, Angel Williams is there, Awesome Kong is there. You had the Beautiful People were there. Taylor Wilde is there. Like, this is a wide swath of, you know, cultures and individuals and body types and whatever. To me, the Knockouts division was never based on one type of person or one type of personality. To me, the Knockouts division was an extension of the X division, or you know, eventually we get to the Knockout tag titles, but like everything was just an extension of the men's division, right? There was nothing like nobody was calling the women's matches in Impact or TNA wrestling, I should say, the popcorn matches, right? Nobody's leaving because you know that when these knockouts were coming out, especially Gail Kim, that they were ready to put on a show, and time after time they proved that, and it really did elevate the game and change the style, although it did take quite a few years for it to change mainstream wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that was one of the reasons why I tuned into TNA. You know, as a woman, you know, you or a female in this industry or just in this generation, you want to see something relatable, character-wise, or you want to see someone, and you know, and this is, I would speak mainly just in, you know, here in the States. You know, you weren't really exposed to that much because of how much of how large of a promotion WWE is, or WWF at the time, or whatever terminology they use then. I don't know. I lose track of that.
Yeah, everybody does.
Because it all blurs in, honestly. But I think that's why they lacked a little bit of a female backing in WWE. Yeah, you know, you had your favorites, like you had the guys, you know, but as far as when it came to women's wrestling, you know, it would be very short, very quick, or some would say inappropriate, depending what terminology you want to use or whatever you were watching. And usually at that time, and you know, you would get up to go buy your merch or go to your food stand, concession stand.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you would watch TNA, I think they had maybe a little bit more of a female backing or support compared to the other promotion, only because you could actually, you want to see something relatable or something similar to whatever your background may be, or, you know, whatever you can relate to. That would be the best way I can put it.
Well, you want to feel a connection to whoever's in the ring, right? And it's hard to feel a connection to somebody in the ring who's, and again, I don't mean to be crass about it, but somebody who's, it's hard to respect somebody in the ring who's only there for their looks. And I know that's a horrible thing to say, but that's what WWE was booking at the time. And it doesn't matter which way you want to slice it, that's what it is.
Yeah, and you know, there were a few, I will say this, there were a few women that did not want that. You know, you had, of course, like Trish Stratus doing her best.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Lita definitely stood out.
Yes.
The best she could, because she was not, which is probably one of the reasons why her and Trish Stratus are probably I would say one of the most respected women that came from that time and that era. Because of how well, you know, they handled that time frame, and of course how well they could work. I would definitely say that that's probably why those two are the most respected ones. And they wanted to work, and they didn't want to just be pushed into that category of whatever cookie cutter factory whatever was in at the time, you know?
Yeah, however you want to phrase it, yeah.
Yeah, however you want to... I mean, it's kind of hard, you know, to even talk about a subject like that, especially now. But, yeah, like, you know, you have to give it to, like, there are a few of those women that did not want to be pushed in that category, and they did their best with what they could do.
Yes.
So, I do give credit where credit should be, you know, and like I said, you know, there were a few women, and those were the two that always stood out, which Lita and Trish Stratus at that time.
Yes, 100%.
But, yeah, but back to TNA, you know, you had a whole thing going on with the women's division that was not what you were seeing on WWE, if we're going to do any type of comparison, as much as I hate to do a comparison like that, but hey, you know, it is what it is. And unfortunately, you know, we have to speak of the comparisons of both companies, because TNA was having some major television time, you know.
Well, and I mean, that aspect of it, we're gonna unfortunately have to dive a little deeper into, and as we move into the program here. So she returns to the WWE after her TNA contract runs out in 2008. So she goes back to she goes back to WWE, and you know, once again, she's kind of in the mid card, right? She's there picking up some wins over people like Maurice or Michelle McCool. You know, back then as well, it's of note that the WWE had gone away from the Women's Championship, and now it was known as the infamous Divas Championship. So that kind of shows you the regression, if you will, of the women's division there. So she's kind of in the mid card. She's really just in enhancement matches or job matches or whatever. Like she's defeating announcers, and she's defeating, like, and again, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but she's wrestling women who are, let's just say, below her skill level. And that's the nicest way I can possibly phrase it. So she's running through this. She's there for 3 years, from 2008 to 2011. And the 2011, her exit there is probably the most talked about thing of her entire WWE run. And everybody has heard by now about, you know, what happened with CM Punk in 2014 when he quit the WWE after the Royal Rumble and the whole, you know, Daniel Bryan saga, right? Everybody, well, okay, I shouldn't say that, because I understand that a lot of non-wrestling fans listen to this program, so I'll give a little backstory to this, and I want you to chime in on this as well. So 2014, CM Punk is like on top of the wrestling world. He's the guy, but he's like total anti-establishment. He doesn't give a damn. He plays by his own rules. Well, he wanted Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble in 2014 and get a shot at the championship, because he thought that Daniel Bryan should have been the guy. WWE says, we don't think so. We're going to push somebody else. So CM Punk says, haha, screw you guys, I quit, essentially, and quits quits right after the Royal Rumble and leaves the company and basically sets fire to the goddamn place after he's done with that crazy shoot interview he did. Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, I remember when it came out.
So what happened there, it's very easy to draw comparisons to what happened with Gail Kim. So 2011, she's in the Royal Rumble. WWE asks her to get eliminated the first minute of the match. Like, I think she went in number 2. Mm-hmm. And they told her, yeah, just, you know, a minute in, just get out of there, get yourself eliminated. So she says, screw this, and eliminates herself, and then goes backstage and quits on the spot.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's no other way to explain it other than that's exactly what happened. I think, you know, social media was around, but it wasn't as, I guess, popular at the time.
I think MySpace was still a thing back then.
It was, yeah, it was. It was MySpace. And then we were moving on to Facebook. It was during that weird transition time. So WWE does what WWE does, and they released a small statement stating that she officially left the company and that her contract had expired.
Which is like, obviously they're not going to come out and say that.
She quit and she chose to eliminate herself.
But like, what an unbelievable what I know she's a woman, but what balls to do something like that, right? Like, you guys want me to do what? No, F this. I'm going to do it my way. And just like, to me, that's it's incredible.
Well, not only that, I mean, you have to, from my understanding, I've never personally spoke to Gail Kim. I see her on Twitter every once in a while and I interact with her, but I don't know her personally. But as a human being, just as a person, I would think maybe other things occurred backstage as well. Maybe, because, to just quit like that, it had to be a sequence of things. Maybe it's a possibility that she was doing all the stuff mid-card, and then for them to just say, okay, you need to be eliminated after less than a minute or a minute, I can understand and where that would be frustrating. And, it's completely, I would go as far as saying it's unfair, especially when you work so hard and you're clearly over with your fan base or the fans of the promotion at that time. So, yeah.
So, we had talked off air, and before I get into this, I just want to reiterate something that I said at the beginning of the program, that there are topics and views that are expressed in this program that we, myself and the guests, do not condone or appreciate or whatever, but unfortunately it's part of the story and we have to talk about them. I was talking to you off air about an article that was written, and fair or not, it's not fair, let's be honest, but the majority of mainstream wrestling articles are written by men, and this was no different in this time frame, 2011, when Gail Kim left the company. So I'm going to read you an article. Please stop me when you feel the need to interject, because it's kind of a long one. But
okay. Because
you are an incredible writer and you're an incredible journalist, and I want to get your take on this, and just because I have my own opinion of it. I think you can tell by the way that I'm talking about it that I'm not happy with the tone and tenor of this article, but
for the record, I don't necessarily like to critique someone's work.
No, I don't mean it in a critique way.
I just want to make that statement because there was an incident that did happen, and some people would say that maybe people don't give me enough respect because I am a woman, and I'm okay with that. Hey, you do you, whatever. I have to worry about, what I write, what I have to worry about deadlines. Okay. I'm more concerned about that than what someone thinks of me or how they treat me.
Yes.
I don't like to criticize or critique someone's work unless someone asks me for some feedback. There was a case when someone did ask me for some feedback, and I advised them there were some grammatical errors, per se, and I did advise them to speak to their editor to check it. And then they asked me too what my feedback was, and I suggested maybe progress into some creative writing or something. Just gain a little bit of more knowledge, and I in no way meant that in a negative aspect. However, that person did take it as me shitting on their article when I didn't. I just wanted to let them know that there were some grammatical errors that their editor should have caught, especially from a platform that I used to work for, when I know that they have editors that catch that. Simple as that. Just for the record, I don't really like to, I don't criticize a lot of people's work unless asked, and I do give my honest opinion on how you can improve. How you take it, it's another thing. I remember my first year, it was very difficult because it's almost you have to expect to receive a negative response from the audience that reads it all the time. However, I slowly learned when people say nothing about it, it's better than them actually throwing any type of, what's the word, how do I politely say, tantrum over what your topic is. So that's all I just wanted to say. I have had that experience, and, you know, like I said, I'm not doing it in any way to be foul or mean. I have a high expectation. I have higher expectations than most people when it comes to writing any type of feature about something.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I'm not gonna mention this person's name or the website that it's off of, because again, this article is 10 years old at this point, but
yeah.
it does it illustrates the mindset that existed back then. So again, I'm gonna go through this and stop me when you would like to interject. But the title of the article kind of sets the tone and tenor of this thing. So Gail Kim quits. Now please shut the hell up is the title of the article. So I think you can understand what direction this one's going. So, well,
in all fairness, a lot of the titles were exactly that in 2011.
Yes.
What I recall.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so all right, here we go. Gail Kim is one of the sacred cows of the online professional wrestling world. Kim is known for her proficient quote-unquote work rate and boasts a decorated history as one of the pioneers of the once successful TNA Knockouts division. The talented former WWE Women's Champion and TNA Knockouts Champion should have had no problem fitting in as one of the elite talents in WWE's much-maligned Divas division when she returned in 2008. Instead, Kim... Yeah, okay.
I already got a problem with that paragraph.
Okay, go ahead, please.
That's not even a paragraph. But first of all, these are performers. These are women. You don't subjugate them as being called cattle. First of all, they are not cattle. They're in-ring talent and they're performers. To say that they're cattle, it almost sounds like, as horrible as it sounds, like when you say cattle, it's kind of it's kind of saying like it's essentially like a meat factory, you know?
Yes.
Like whatever comes in, you're the number that's next, and then you're out.
Yeah, you're ground up and on to the next.
You're ground up and yeah, exactly. So these are performers, these are people, not just women, and I would say that for men in general. Don't subjugate them as cattle, because keep in mind they do break their bodies for a living, for your entertainment, every night. Or every other night, depending what they're scheduled to wrestle.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with using that terminology. The once known TNA Knockouts division, the Knockouts division was still going when she left.
Yeah, and you could argue that it was improving, not because she left, but after she left, it was still improving.
It was still growing at the time. Anyways, continue.
Oh, this gets worse. Instead, Kim was cast aside, significantly visible only as an extra in WWE Diva Battle Royals and to those who logged on to WWE.com to view obscure WWE Superstars show. Kim handled her apparent quote-unquote misuse the way any independent contractor by heart would, with a misguided sense of entitlement. Kim endeared herself into the oftenest anti-establishment internet...
How was she entitled if she was there performing and doing what she was told and contracted to do?
You know, if you think that that's an odd statement, just...
No, that's just
God, this thing just gets worse.
It's not an odd statement. You're just contradicting what you said to
begin
with.
100%.
And first you're calling her. Okay, first of all, you're comparing her to another number. Then you're praising her, and then you're throwing a negative response after that. So you're contradicting your. Oh, I can't talk right today.
You're a little hot now. You can't.
I cannot talk right today. I've been like this actually all day because I've been busy. Like I told you, we had a busy day today. You're just contradicting yourself.
Oh, 100%.
Like throughout the first two paragraphs, I really don't believe what you have to say, but I'm gonna read it just to give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe that there's something more intellectual you have to say further on. But go ahead.
I think your doubt's going to get erased here, but we're going to continue this here.
I like to give people a chance.
All right, well, the chance is fading fast, but... okay, where did I leave off here? Kim endured herself to the oftentimes anti-establishment internet by not taking action in the ring, but rather firing up her Twitter account and blasting WWE Creative. Once...
All right, we had Twitter already.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now
we have a timeline, yeah, so no more MySpace, we're on to Twitter.
All right.
Once the apparently inexcusable misuse of Kim's divine talents became too much to handle for the once prolific women's wrestler, Kim unceremoniously quit, leaving behind... Yeah, listen to this shit, and this is...
80% of the roster didn't know how to wrestle. They had to be taught at the center over there.
So, this next paragraph is especially poignant because we just talked about the CM Punk issue, right?
Sorry if that offended anyone that's going to listen to this.
No, offend away. Well, honestly, anybody who would be offended by that would be somebody who shares that masculinity or toxic masculinity mindset, right? And really, you're in the wrong place for that because, you know, what the hell, but...
It's okay. I'm already used to it. I just ignore them. It just depends if I feel like entertaining them for that day.
So we had discussed or touched on the CM Punk issue, which is funny because remember this is written in 2011. So his next paragraph is taking cues from the shoot-minded CM Punk a bit too seriously. Kim sang her own swan song when she rebelliously eliminated herself in a recent battle royal, thus quitting the company on her own terms.
I mean,
there's foreshadowing.
She technically did do what they told her to do.
Yeah, oh yeah, she lost in a minute, just not the way that they wanted. Kim has since spent the last few weeks letting her Twitter followers know that she indeed quit the WWE, with the WWE's newest malcontent going so far as to kindly ask the powers to be to officially release her from her contract. WWE still hasn't budged. Gail Kim said on her Twitter, "This is the current situation for everyone who's asking. I quit last Monday, and apparently after a total of 5 years working for a company where I was not utilized or appreciated, I am now, for some reason, valuable enough to keep me under the remainder of my contract, so I can't work anywhere else. Controlling thoughts." So the author says to this, good. If it's WWE's intention to allow Kim to ambiguously sit and rot on a couch and in effect pantomime her recent run with WWE, they have every right to do so. It's worth mentioning that WWE's right to such power should be in breach of the otherwise unorthodox laws pertaining to the status of an Impact...
Excuse me.
Yeah, please cut in.
Mr. Pro Wrestling Journalist of 2011, who probably won that whatever award was available at the time. I don't know. You know what? You know what was good? Gail Kim's wallet, because she still collected that check. So your statement is still kind of shitty, but I mean, it's horrible that she had to sit there and not do what she loved. But at the same time, it's not extremely that negative. Continue.
No, and it's
He's just making it sound worse than what it was, but it really wasn't that bad.
It's framing the situation in... I don't know. I'm going to keep reading this thing, because this just... this is such dreck, but... Again, and the only reason I'm bringing this...
Did that article get? I'm sure it got a lot.
Oh, I'm sure it did, and this is what passed for journalism back in the day. And again, this is why I wanted you on the program, because what passes for journalism today, I'm happy to say the standards are quite a bit higher, but we're going to keep getting into this one. In a brief amount of time, Kim has since gone from obscure malcontent to news-making vigilante armed with countless complaints about being misused and done wrong by that thankless WWE creative team. These complaints seem to only fuel the ubiquitous sentiments and, for lack of a better term, electronic filth which propagate the inflated idea of a poor, misused wrestler. Wrestlers shouldn't be used in a violent and unforgiving business simply to be used correctly. Most individuals who adopt such narrow-minded ambition end up being used up or not used at all. Chances are wrestlers who never achieve the rarefied air of WWE success. Oh god, I can't even read this with a straight face. Oh god. Specifically because they couldn't overcome the omnipresence of the politics of the business, they have no business in the pro wrestling industry in the first place. One must eat or be eaten. God damn it. Like, that one pisses me off because
I mean,
nobody gets hired by a company and has the intention of not being used. Or nobody goes to a company and gives a half-ass effort with the intention of, I'm going to sit there and catch a check.
She did everything that she was scripted to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, as far as, people being under her skill level, at the time, sadly, that is the truth. She is telling the truth about that. And if pro wrestling is something she dearly loved, and she still dearly loves, I can understand her frustration of wanting to try something new and not even either being taken serious for her skill level or not even being listened to. So I can understand her frustration and what her statement meant. As far as, politics, unfortunately, in this world, every community, every place, sadly, does have politics. And sometimes things are taken to a political level. And I don't mean necessarily like, the left or the right, Democrat, Republican, socialist, anything like that. Unfortunately, that's the environment. Sometimes, sadly, sometimes people do have to get political, but in this aspect, it has nothing to do with this article or the statement that she released. This is her choosing to leave a company that she felt she was not an asset to, and she could be in another company doing more. That's all this whole thing's about. As far as whoever's writing the statement, I don't know exactly where their mindset was at the time, or what their understanding of pro wrestling actually is.
Well, it's very limited, apparently.
But that's, like I said, unfortunately, that's necessarily my opinion. Whether people agree with it or not, sadly, I can't sugarcoat anything I can say in reference to that, but I can understand. It's something she dearly loves. She has ideas. She wants to be heard. And unfortunately, at the time, in certain promotions, major promotions, meaning like WWE, sometimes they don't take the time to listen to any ideas that could actually help or improve, or who knows, maybe she wanted to be utilized more in a training level as well, and it didn't happen. I'm not sure exactly what she meant, but if she felt, it is her right, and it's anyone's right to say, hey, I don't feel I'm being utilized the best way that I can be utilized. I think I can do more, and if you don't have anything for me, then I'll just leave, because you're wasting my time. So I can understand that. And I don't think necessarily there was extreme hard feelings when they parted, because the departure between the two, from my understanding, it doesn't really seem ugly.
No, to me it seems like she got slapped with the 90-day no-compete, which is par for the course. Mm-hmm. Right? She said something about the 90-day compete, and then this guy just, whatever, writes a hit. Let's be honest, it's a hit piece. But we're we're winding this thing down. I'll read this last paragraph, because I can't.
I'm sure it was worth all those hits that she
got.
I'm
sure it was. Yeah. God.
I'm sure whatever outlook you wanted to share in pro wrestling, and the fact that we're even talking about it now is probably the most validation you're going to get from that article from 2011. And I don't see anyone going, hey, you remember that badass article about Gail Kim in 2011 by
blank
random seasonal writer,
redacted, yeah,
pro wrestling writer, journalist, whatever they are. Do you remember that badass article? Nah, I don't see anyone saying that. But let's continue to the last paragraph.
This will be the last paragraph because I can't read any more of this dribble. Anyways, to this day, it confounds me why. Okay, this article in itself, or this paragraph in this poorly written diatribe that this guy wrote, completely sums up what this guy understands about the pro wrestling fans' mindset. But anyways, to this day, it confounds me why anti-establishment is so popular among internet wrestling circles, all of which bask in the notive pastime of tirelessly complaining about WWE. If everybody was anti-establishment, there would be no WWE for them to complain about. Gail Kim continues to rot along with what remains of her contract, tweeting pungent messages to whoever out there still knows who she is. I guarantee you that this individual would never ever in a million years write an article like that about CM Punk. I would guarantee you that he would never write an article about any male wrestler. It doesn't matter who they are in history. He would never write an article like that. But I feel like, again, I know that we're
anti-establishment. I mean, anti-establishment's everywhere in every community, every industry. It's not necessarily just Gail Kim, and that's really unfair to put that weight of the world of pro wrestling on her back.
Yeah, like she's the biggest martyr, and like what did I just read? Right?
Let's go on and talk about how Gail Kim is probably one of the most legendary pro wrestlers in the States as a woman, successful in multiple promotions. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what she did for the industry beyond, your 2011 opinion in your article that I'm sure your pride and those hits were worth. I really hope that, whoever wrote that article, it was worth it.
I'm sure that they're a superstar because of that article.
And that's not me being a jerk. It's not.
Oh, I'm being a jerk now. I don't give. God damn, that's.
I don't mean to. I'm not being reasonable, but that whole thing is very. You know what? I'm gonna say it. It's insulting. It's very insulting to any performer. I would never write anything about any performer in that aspect, regardless if they left the company in a negative aspect, a bad note, how the fans felt. Because the fact of the matter is, I'm not the one out there breaking my body for your entertainment. I'm just the person documenting it for everyone to have in the future. So, yeah, it is offensive, and you're probably right. Maybe he wouldn't have written that about CM Punk. What's the current day to... Or, you know what? He probably would have never written a word like that about Daniel Bryan.
Guaranteed not.
Seth Rollins. Hell, Roman Reigns.
Well, you
John
figure...
Moxley, Dean Ambrose. You wouldn't... Any of the big-time guys in this industry, I guarantee you wouldn't have said that, or you would not tell them directly to their face what you said.
Well, to me, it seems like such a double standard, because if people will, and unfortunately this is true today still, not so much on the writer side of things, but some of the fans, like nowadays, when a guy asks for their release or they quit WWE to go somewhere else, like a John Moxley when that whole thing happened, or like Matt Hardy with that whole fiasco when he left WWE to go to AEW and all that kind of stuff, or somebody like Matt Cardona who is essentially mothballed and then finally let out of his contract and then goes to Impact Wrestling. It always seems like when the guys...
For the record, Matt, we love having you here.
Yes, he is a fantastic talent. Actually, we were talking about that on Total Nonstop Impact. I was on their program this last Tuesday, and we were talking about him. But it seems like when the guys make a power move like that, they're celebrated. And then when a woman makes a power move like that, she's bitchy or something. Like, there's such a...
Or not worth the contract,
or
whatever contract she was given, or... yeah, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is, you know, like I said, you know, people have accused me of being difficult to work with, but I'm not, because I'm rehirable at any platform I've worked for, and additional platforms, but that's, at the end of the day, you know, unfortunately, it's a double standard. I as a woman, you know, writer in pro wrestling, I guess I'm decently known. I don't know.
I would say so.
I don't pay attention that often, but, you know, I like what I do, and at the end of the day, I don't have time to think about what your feelings are about me as a woman, or what you think you know about me as an individual. And like I explained to a friend of mine earlier, if I'm not talking to you on the phone, you don't have my phone number, you don't have any reason to have any issues with me, because I haven't given you any, especially if I haven't talked to you. Now, whether you disagree about my writing and you think my writing is mediocre or horrible, at the end of the day, I don't do it for you. I don't do it for the fans. I do it for the career of that performer. So that way they have some type of public recognition, or they have something documenting their career. Now, that's the fact. I mean, you and I've talked, and like I've told people, I would jokingly laugh and say I have the largest archive of Kenny Omega articles.
Yes.
That is what whether I like it or not, that is what I'm known for, but I have written for different styles too. Right now I'm writing Noah stuff besides Impact stuff. I'm also writing entertainment stuff. So I'm pretty much, everywhere, but whether you like my style or not of writing, that's up to you. But at the end of the day, like I tell people, I don't do it for you. I do it for the men and women that are in this industry, because they deserve a right to have some type of proof or documentation of their hard work, and eventually making it to a major promotion like Impact, AEW, WWE. A lot of people don't know this. I've written some stuff for WWE as well. I'm not biased to one promotion or to another. I'm for pro wrestling in general.
But I feel like that's kind of, it's fun. It's interesting you mentioned that, you write the articles for the performer, right? You can kind of draw the comparison to someone like Gail Kim, who she doesn't wrestle for the promotion that she's under. She wrestles for herself. Like, she's trying to elevate herself and the women around her, and you could see that, goddamn, look what she did in that 2012 to 14 range then it would have been TNA Impact, I guess, right?
Yeah, but then to leave for a bit and then just come back and just be able to jump in the ring with the knockouts at the time.
Well, that's
because at the time, the knockouts were already advanced at that time.
Yes, they were.
Jump back into that time, 14, 15, 16, around that time. And just for her to just easily pop back in to the ring and work.
And the other interesting thing that I find is, because she's Canadian, she was really the first big name Canadian that went to TNA Impact, came from Canada, really had the the vine to go through Gail Kim to get to Impact Wrestling. I wonder really if Gail Kim never went to Impact Wrestling, would Impact Wrestling have such a Canadian female influence? And they've had it throughout the years, whether it's Gail or whether it's Taya or whether it was Allie when she was there, or whether it's Rosemary now, right? There's...
I think Impact just naturally grew into having that Canadian influence, just in general, with both male and female performers. I think it just feels more natural, in a way. Like, it just naturally fits. I'm not sure exactly how that occurred or why, but it just always, when you think Impact, and you name any male or female performer, about, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, it's Canadian.
And you still see it today. Like, look at the men that are in there right now, right? You have Eric Young in there. You have Josh Alexander, who's on top, right? It just, and again, like on the women's side, you have Rosemary and others. It just, I find it so fascinating, right? You see Gail Kim arrive there. There's a couple Canadian women. She leaves. She comes back, and now you see a big influx of them, and it's just.
And they're just going to keep coming.
Oh, 100%. Like, she laid the groundwork, and now everybody can follow that path, right?
Yeah. And, I think she really, like you said, and I think everyone can agree she was probably one of the foundations of the Knockouts division. And anytime she would appear or come back, everyone was excited.
Yes.
Like, to this day, everyone's still excited to just see her. I mean, if she just wanted to show up at Impact, people would be talking about it.
Oh, 100%.
Because, I see, the fans still interact with her, they still want to see her. That's not going to change, it's just unfortunate whoever wrote that article.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree. I don't like it. And that's my personal opinion.
I think you would be hard pressed to find many people who drew something positive out of that one.
The only thing I can state is that it's very well worded in a creative aspect.
It's worded all right. Oh, yeah, it's real creative, too.
Very well creative, the choice of words and the layout of the style. But as far as the message and the deep root of the article, there's nothing good. It's just offensive to me. I would find that extremely offensive today. 2011, I probably would have found that offensive if I read it. Fortunately, I didn't read a lot of pro wrestling articles in 2011. Thank goodness. But, that's the most positive thing I can say is that Grammarly and the choice of words was very creative. However, not the best article as far as, being polite. It's definitely, I found it offensive. And I'm not Gail Kim, but it's offensive to me as a woman in this industry. It's very offensive. And I would feel that way if it was written about a male talent as well. I would feel offended for a man as well. And that's just me, whether people like it or not.
I guess, in terms of that article, unfortunately that was the times, but you could certainly say that Gail Kim stood the test of time, right? She had an incredible run in Impact Wrestling, and now she is a producer behind the scenes with Impact Wrestling. And correct me if I'm wrong, but she works primarily with the Knockouts, and she produces a lot of the Knockouts matches now, correct?
Yes, that's at least what I know. I don't know if maybe she's helping produce other matches as well, but I do know she's primarily helping there. Also, we have to remember let's also mention, she was the first female Hall of Famer for
Yes, that's right.
Impact as well.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And she deserves every accolade in that, in my opinion, for any promotion as well. She deserves all that recognition.
So as we start to wind down this part of the segment, I guess what would be your kind of top moments or memories of Gail Kim throughout her career in Impact Wrestling or otherwise?
Anytime she returned.
Yeah,
basically,
pops the crowd.
Anytime she returned later on in, let's say 2016, even 2017, when she became a Hall of Famer that time, just how you really have an idea as far as how advanced she was for the time if she could just pop in the ring like it was nothing and mesh with other styles and other knockouts.
Yes. That
were definitely, I would say, way more trained than WWE at the time back then. Now, WWE, they've got a great developmental center. The women are very well trained now at WWE, but at the time, they weren't really. How do I say this politely? They weren't. Their skill set wasn't that advanced. So it gives you an idea that she was very well ahead of her time and very well advanced. And even for her to just be able to pop back in the ring, that should also tell you that she was advanced for the time. Her skill set was very high. But as far as memorable moments, I would definitely say the fact that, when she was inducted into the Hall of Fame, to me that was important because I was happy that she at least got some type of recognition somewhere that she deserved.
And it was a long time coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, should it have been done sooner? Maybe. But I'm just happy for her in general that she actually got that recognition. Because that's all I ever wanted for her.
And I feel like that's a lot of the fan sentiment too, right? It just, because she did so much and accomplished so much, just that recognition that, everybody can hang their hat on, she finally got recognized. And, to your point, right, the first female to be inducted into the TNA or Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame is that's no slouch statement, that's for sure.
Yeah, and people need to also keep in mind as far as when it comes to Impact or TNA or whatever you choose to call it. We say Impact now. We don't have a huge induction ceremony for a Hall of Fame. We don't have a lot of inductees. We have I would say, we're very selective of who gets inducted per year. Not to say that WWE is not selective, but they usually have multiple people going in, a lot of people going in. What would you say is the average for us to induct people in the Hall of Fame? How many would you say per year?
I thought it's one a year.
Yeah, it's one. So I think maybe, I could be wrong. I could have sworn maybe there was 2 a year or something like that. But we don't have 4 or 5 people that go in every year.
No,
it's always
definitely not.
One particular person, or sometimes 2 depending on that year.
So before I let you go, what kind of projects do you have on the go right now?
Ugh, I don't even.
Bad question. You had a long day at work, and now I hit you with that one.
Let's see. I got. If you go to my Twitter, you can keep up with me. You can go to my link tree on Twitter. I've got a couple of sponsors now.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Talk about that for a second.
I've got Rep Sports now. I'm officially sponsored and affiliated. So if you want to order anything from Rep Sports online, I'm a big fan of energy drinks. You can get a percentage off by using the code RoseNova at repsports.com during checkout. If you want, anything to help you get them gains in, I am doing some more writing entertainment-wise as well. I'm doing a lot of stuff for Noah, Pro Wrestling Noah at TWM. Occasionally you'll catch me talking about something random, on Twitter. That has nothing to do with pro wrestling. Every Tuesday night, I'm tweeting about Impact Wrestling, or I'm retweeting people. If you want to follow me at ARoseCPE on Twitter. From there, you'll have a link to everything. I've got some new merch coming out. It's being worked on. Just an update because I haven't had any merch updates in the past 2 or 3 years. So hopefully we can get that approved and going on Pro Wrestling Tees again. There's still some shirts there. Let's see, and we're also going to release a couple under Culture Plus Entertainment. If you want to go there, cultureplusentertainment.com. We talk about anything film, TV. We have some wrestling stuff there, but we're not a full wrestling site. Mainly we talk about WWE, AEW, Impact only. And, we talk about gaming there. That's pretty much it. I'm kind of all over the place. So if you go to my Twitter, you can keep up with me.
Once again, make sure you give a follow to @ARoseCPE. That's actually Rose Nova's Twitter handle. You catch her there for all of her wonderful projects that she has on the go. Now, before I get into the next interview of the program, Alicia from Total Nonstop Impact, I'm going to play another clip of Gail Kim. This one is going to be audio of her reflecting on her kind of early days of the wrestling business and into what she really meant and what she really thinks of the Impact Knockout division and kind of the genesis of it and the beginnings of it. So really interesting stuff. Going to get to this audio, and then on the other side, Alicia from Total Nonstop Impact joins the program.
I went through a lot of ups and downs throughout my career. I lost my passion at one point and completely quit the business. And so Scott D'Amore gave me a call and he said, we want to build a women's division in TNA. And he said, it's going to take time, so I want you to be patient. But that's what we're looking towards. And I went down to the studios, Universal Studios, and I met the roster, and this passion reignited in me. And I just knew this was the right thing to do, and this is where I wanted to be. So my first day with TNA was on the very first day we started on Spike TV. And it was a great way to start, fresh new start with everyone. Team 3D started on that day. It was our start on Spike TV, so everyone was very motivated to make this work and make it a great success. When I heard that we were going to start our Knockouts division and it was actually going to happen, I was ecstatic. I had been fighting for that moment for so long. I think literally at least minimum a year and a half. And the company finally said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to bring in 10 girls, and we're going to start a division, and we're going to have a Knockouts title. I literally started screaming in the arena from happiness. And it was truly that whole time period of building the Knockouts division, it was basically an overnight success and a dream come true. To be regarded as the pioneer of the division, it's truly an honor. I don't think of myself that way. I just know that I fought for what I believed in, what I felt passionate about. I remember people always telling me and being negative and saying, they don't want to watch women's wrestling, Gail. That's the bathroom break. And I just refused to believe that. And I just truly believed that if we showed them that we could just go in the ring and we could do what was just as good as the guys, I knew that we could prove them wrong. And we did.
Before we head to the finish of tonight's program, I'm going to play a couple more audio clips. The first one is a Gail Kim promo package previewing her matchup against Awesome Kong at Bound for Glory. The second one you're going to hear is from Alicia's favorite matchup, Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell, and you're going to hear a promo from that series of matches. And after that, I hope you stick around for the end of the program. I'm going to be talking about a couple of interesting things that we have coming up in regards to this podcast. So make sure you stick around for the end of the show. Until then, these couple of promos from Gail Kim.
Hope refused to give a prediction earlier as it relates to this Knockouts Championship match between Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. Gail Kim had these comments of her own.
Awesome Kong is one of my toughest opponents to date. I think the fans would agree. I think my body would agree that when Kong and I come together, You just never know what's going to happen. I respect the hell out of her. And when we're in the ring, we both give it all we've got. And like I've said before, all the pain I went through, all the pain that my body went through, I wouldn't take back 1 minute of that for anything. This match at Bound for Glory is about our legacy. Who truly is the best? I was the very first Knockouts champion, and I intend to stay Knockouts champion come Bound for Glory. Come Bound for Glory 2015. Who's going to go down as the best TNA Knockouts champion ever? This match will go down in history. And when the history books are written about our Knockouts division, it's going to say one thing. Bound for Glory 2015, Gail Kim defeats Awesome Kong.
You have nothing to worry about. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to touch you. I'm just here to talk to you. Okay?
It's nice.
Taryn. You just forget how well I know you. So these mind games, they don't work with me. The psychological babble BS doesn't work, so just stop. And also, I'm a true believer in karma, so I truly believe that karma will slap you in the face before I do. But on second thought.
Oh, wow! A right hand that just floors Territorial by Gail Kim. Knocked her loopy. What a right delivered. And at Bound for Glory, 2 of the 4 involved in that Knockouts title match are going at it. They're not wasting any time.
As we look to wrap up tonight's program, just once again want to thank the 2 special guests I had on tonight's program, both Ashley and Alicia. Again, I could wax poetically all day about what women's wrestling means to the wrestling industry, what Canadian female wrestlers mean to the wrestling history and to wrestling today, but that's just my perspective, the male perspective. I thought it was very important to have a couple of females on the program, not just to give us the wrestling fan perspective, but you got the writer perspective from Ashley, and then you got the production and, you know, somebody who has a vested interest in the product today with the in terms of podcasting and following the product with Alicia. So again, happy to have them on the program. I hope you all enjoyed it. I just wanted to give a shout out. This has nothing to do with the podcast itself, but somebody who I just feel needs that little attaboy, if you will. So Truck Rawpeck, if you are listening, kudos to you. Him and his wife, it was the other day, they donated something like $600 worth of food to one of their local homeless shelters. Just what a selfless act. So Truck Rawpeck, if you're listening, man, hats off to you. And everybody who listening to this, who knows him, you know he's a stand-up dude. Just, wow, what a tremendous thing for you to go out of your way and for you and your wife to do that. That's just, that was something real special. So I wanted to give you a quick shout-out on the program. Once again, it has nothing to do with this, what we're talking about, but I felt like that had to be mentioned because that's really stand-up, man. Hats off to you and the wife. That's really tremendous. In terms of this program, obviously, next month we're going to have a new topic. I'm already lining up some tremendous guests, and we're starting production as we speak on that program. Now, before we get there, once again, tinyurl.com/grapplingwithcanada. Please go there. Please use the Amazon links to do your Amazon purchasing. Once again, nothing gets added to your purchasing price. Just a small kickback gets sent to this show. And once again, Impact Wrestling fans, I'm talking to you. I know there's a lot of you, and I know you're going to be listening to this program. I implore you, use your Amazon 30-day free subscription and get those Impact Wrestling Twitch tendies, if you will. Once again, tinyurl.com/grapplingwithcanada is where you can find all of that. You can find me on Twitter at 6_podcast, and you can also find us on youtube.com/c/6sided podcast. And one more thing I wanted to mention, actually a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is you can find us on Patreon. We have a Patreon page. I haven't plugged it yet, but I'm going to start doing it now just because now we have kind of an established catalog, and I have some plans for the future. So patreon.com/grappling with Canada is where you can find that. $5 gets you early access to these programs. Also gets you some input into the shows moving forward, and a few other interesting things of note. So once again, patreon.com/grappling with Canada. And I had a few people asking about merchandise. Yes, that is something I'm going to be moving into. No, it's not going to be anytime soon. And that's simply for the fact of there's lots going on at the home life, if you will. So, that's something I'm going to be looking forward to maybe end of March to really start seriously progressing that avenue. But I will keep you all posted. And one other thing, I can't believe I have to mention this, but I'm just going to get it out of the way because I don't need it coming up anymore. But if anybody will notice, the logo for this program has changed from what it was once originally. Now it's a subtle change, but it changed nonetheless, and I wanted to give everybody a backstory as to why. Now, the first logo for this program featured the Grappling with Canada logo with the red ensign flag. Now, that flag I put on our logo because that was the flag that was in use on the early NWA titles, because when that title was produced, Canada didn't have the maple leaf flag that we now know and love. Somebody brought up on Twitter that there are far-right groups in Canada, apparently, that are using that as their, we don't support the Canadian flag, we're using this. Complete bullshit, in my opinion, and I can't believe I have to say it, but I'm going to say it. Right, this program in no way, shape, or form represents or supports anybody, anything, any movement like that. Point blank, period. I can't see it any other way. And hats off to Pat LaPrade, because he really went to bat for me in this whole issue that occurred earlier on in February. So it's not like I went ahead and had to scramble and change the logo. I'll give you guys a peek behind the curtain. I had 3 different logos, or 3 different styles of that specific logo made up originally. So the plan was to kind of put them out there, throughout the year. But I just figured out whatever. We'll just use different logos for different applications. And so you'll see all 3 styles of logo used throughout social media, used throughout the links for the podcast itself, whether it's Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, again, wherever you buy, sell, trade, steal, barter, whatever your favorite podcast, you can find us, Grappling with Canada, on the YouTube page as well. I just wanted to clear that up. I know a couple of people were asking. I kind of went radio silent on it, not because I didn't want to talk about it, but because it was like, I said my piece, and again, hats off to Pat LaPrade for kind of jumping in on there when he didn't have to. So that's what's going on with the logo. That's what's happening with merchandise. I'll keep you guys updated where you can all find that. Once again, the easiest way to get all that is at 6_podcast or tinyurl.com/grappling with Canada. So for that, for the guests that I had on this evening, and for everybody who's tuned into the program, we've had tremendous growth between the Sue Hart episode and the Dino Bravo episode. We set download records for the Dino Bravo episode. We've added hundreds of new subscribers on YouTube. Once again, our race to 1,000, once we hit that, we got the prize pack ready to go. So just hats off to everybody who's listening to this program. And please, 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 if there's one thing you're going to do, actually, you can do 2 things for me. First off, text your friends, tell them you listen to this program, tell them they got to tune in to Grappling with Canada. Second thing you can do is wherever you're listening to this, if there's an area to like the program, like the program. If there's an area to subscribe to the program, make sure you subscribe. If there's an area to leave a comment and a review, please, I would implore you, leave a 5-star review and a comment. Just it puts us higher in the rankings for people searching for the podcast. Just help me out. So again, rate, review, like, subscribe, all good things, and I will catch you guys next month for another episode of Grappling with Canada. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, everyone.